So we get marketed all the time, myself included, by manufacturers trying to sell me, different aftermarket parts constantly that I'm going to sell to you guys and put it up on our website. And oftentimes I ask the question, does it actually work? And that's usually where debunking myths and stuff like that really happens. So today I'm going to burst the bubble on quite a few subjects in the aftermarket scene. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Talking Mods. So, as I alluded to in the intro, I do get marketed quite a bit, and I always get these emails, hi Ron, I have this product, so forth and so forth. And a lot of these companies make products to try to just make products that don't have any functionality, and they exist out there quite a bit. So on today's topic, I'm going to not go into any brand specific, but I'm going to go into some generalities that you should be looking for in certain products. So I'm going to debunk 4 myths, and I'll probably throw in a 5th bonus one for you guys because you guys know how I like to do them. And again, if you're wondering where this is all coming from, I am the CEO of ModBargains. My name is Ron. ModBargains, we have all your parts for you: wheels, tires, suspension, exterior, bumpers, spoilers, etc. Everything you guys want to look for, and that's our shameless plug. And I appreciate if you guys do check out ModBargains. It always helps us out. Feel free to check out the Instagram, ModBargains, as well. You guys are what makes it happen. And now let's jump into the first one. And the first one's going to be a big one. I think you guys will be pretty surprised, and I still get emails to this day. Okay, so big brake kits. We've got one right there. Now, big brake kits in general, oftentimes what I hear from a lot of people is, oh, it's got an 8 piston, a 12 piston. If you've ever heard of someone talk about that, it's pretty funny. I mean, to me, it's pretty funny because it doesn't really make any sense. And I'll explain that now. So now adding a big brake kit, yes, it's great. But oftentimes what people do is they'll buy a big brake kit off a different vehicle and add it onto their car. Now they're adding additional weight sometimes. You got to be careful with that. You don't want to add unsprung weight, right? Because that can do quite a bit of, that can add quite a bit to the vehicle. But using a different vehicle and adding it to your vehicle, let's say you have the Nissan 300ZX had a big brake kit, factory, right? And a lot of people go to the junkyard, they go pick them up. No secret, very popular to do that. Now, it works on some vehicles, the weight ratio and so forth. Now, the calipers themselves have a bias. They're designed specifically for certain vehicles. There is a lot of testing that goes into it. Now, if you pick up something from a big brake kit from a different vehicle and just throw it onto your car, and your car is a lot heavier, believe me, that bias, or even if it's a lot lighter, it's just going to throw it off. It'll basically be a complete imbalance when it brakes. Imagine you have your brakes and the caliper is trying to grab it. Well, what's happening is too much strength is a problem. Now, let's go into the whole piston idea. I'm going to use a pen because I've got some pens here. Now, here's a pen, right? And we've got, let's just pretend this is one of the pistons for it, right? Just like a piston. So we've got 1 piston here, 2 pistons, 3 pistons. Obviously, these are different pens. 4 pistons. Now, 4 pistons, the surface area of these pistons are a certain point, right? And now these are usually spread out and braking onto pushing the brake pad on there, right? Now tell me, which one is better? This, whatever this device is here, 1 of these or 4 of these? Obviously the one is better than the 4. Obviously the manufacturer matters as well. So look out for this gimmick. I see this often in car shows and so forth. They'll put, hey, I've got a 16 piston brake caliper. I mean, okay, great. You now have 16 more objects that can obviously fail. So more pistons, more likely to fail. So big time myth I see on a lot of big brake kit companies. There's a lot of them that come out of Asia, try to market in that regard where, hey, we'll sell them more pistons and we'll throw out a color on there that makes it, I mean, the colors are cool. I'm not going to say they're not, but it doesn't do anything, right? So understand what you're getting with a big brake kit, and what you're getting with a high quality brake system, for example, like from StopTech or Brembo, you'll get, you know, especially Brembo, you'll get a company that has tested it completely. All the bias is tested, the sizes are tested. They know what they're doing. It's designed specifically for your car. It's not going to have a terrible bias and so forth. They're very expensive. Obviously, you want to do your homework, so be careful. You really get what you pay for on this, and I really want you guys to be aware of this one, this big myth that more pistons is better. All right, guys. So number 2, flywheels. So if you have if you drive a stick shift, or if you know someone who drives a stick shift, this is a big myth, especially when we're creating horsepower, the flywheel for the clutch. Often the concept is that the lighter the flywheel, the better it is. So factory flywheels, the ones that come with the car, are designed to allow for a smooth engagement, right? So on low RPM takeoffs from a dead stop, you want it to be as smooth as possible. So the heavier the flywheel, it affects the horsepower, okay? Because heavier flywheel, you can store more energy in there. But the heavier it is, the harder it is for it to take off. So it doesn't rev as easily on the engine, doesn't allow the engine to rev as easily. So you basically have slower shifts, it causes more wear on the synchros, and it also doesn't allow the RPM to come down from the engine. So when you want to switch and you want to let the RPMs come down, you want to do a quick gear change, it doesn't allow for that. So now if you take a lighter flywheel, right, the RPMs and the gear shifts can be faster. That's what I mean. Also, another thing is if you make it too light, there's also what's called as chatter. You'll feel it into the clutch. It won't be smooth. You'll feel that chatter as it goes, as it's trying to basically grip. Brands like ACT, Spec, they really spend a lot of energy, well, I guess that's a pun, but investment in R&D searching between the horsepower area of the vehicle specifically for each flywheel. But my point is, don't just think getting a lighter flywheel is right. Number 3. All right, you've obviously seen a ton of different brands and coilovers that exist out there. And one of the selling points that sometimes comes up is all the more adjustments that you can have. To a certain extent, adjustments are great, but adjustments are really based on you and your ability as a driver, number 1, and what you feel and what you're responding to. So in one of the videos that I did for ModBargains channel, where I actually went down to KW, and we'll play that now, you could see the dyno is basically the dyno testing. They'll show the numbers on there, and it's set up specifically. They set up from the factory. They'll set it up specifically, just like you would tune a vehicle, an engine vehicle. You tune the shock and the springs to work in tandem the right way. Now, having dampening and so forth can be great, where you can make it stiff and soft and so forth, but to what degree? Having too much of that and adjusting too much of it can sometimes honestly make a problem for you. Having too much options is obviously another problem, just like when you go into a restaurant and, well, what's that one restaurant? Cheesecake Factory, you walk in and there's over 200 items on the menu, it feels like.
They're the only menus visible from space. And
you have no idea what you want by the, when the waiter comes over to you and you need another 30 minutes.
I didn't know if it was a menu or a Tom Clancy novel.
Anyway, my point is the same thing happens in suspension. If you look at it and they've got 15 clicks and 30 clicks on this adjustment and 30 and 15 adjustment, it goes way out of hand. So having the ability to adjust is great, but having too much of it for most people, and some of you might be great on the track and have a ton of experience, but if you are someone who goes, just a couple times to the track, you obviously, in my opinion, you won't need that much adjustment. And oftentimes you want to go with the factory settings because they're properly set up by a lot of these professional shops, like brands like KW or Olin's. They have really well set up coilovers. So another myth that having more adjustments makes it better. It doesn't make it better if you don't know how to use it or if you mess it up. All right, guys, and number 4, adding wings and canards and aero kits is always good. No, it is not always good. It has to be done in the right way. Certain companies, one example of a company that does an amazing job, right? Formula One, let's look at Formula One. I did a video about it, but they spend their entire time adjusting and making adjustments with their aero. One of the biggest things that they do, most of their innovations come in aerodynamics and changing the angle and how much downforce and how they're going to cut the air. I mean, there's a lot of adjustments that have to happen. So Lotus, car manufacturer, their claim to fame is being one of their biggest claim to fames, and what they've done well in Formula One is on how well they'll tune, you know, adding wings and spoilers and so forth, Canards, etc., to a vehicle. So just straight up adding pieces and copying someone else's piece, which I've seen this a lot. I've seen some YouTubers go out there and they'll just buy a wing because it looks cool and it'll add downforce, or they'll add a certain piece. Some of it is tested and some of these companies are great. There are some great companies out there that actually really do their homework and, you know, add it on there. But what you could be actually doing, again, if it's not properly tuned and not properly set up, is you could be actually creating more resistance. You might actually make it more uncomfortable in like corners. So all these factors come into play, and how you're going to set up a car needs to actually be looked at. So that's a myth that you should just add on all these aero kits. Now, some of them that are mild are fine, but the extreme ones that you see on like race cars that a lot of people want to emulate, those are the ones that I think oftentimes are not properly done, and you have to be careful with what you're doing. Now, I promised you guys a bonus. Last one is that bonus. I've already covered it in a different video. I recommend this video. I keep on recommending this one video. It's basically debunking the myth on suspension, but that's my bonus one for you guys. Basically, the idea that making it stiffer, right, is going to have better handling. That is completely not true. That was the basic topic on how suspension should be set up. It is more designed, suspension should be set up for comfort, for the ability for the user to move into the turn, have confidence and the feedback from suspension. So stiffer, which a lot of these car manufacturers and OEMs have created in our mind, that's created a problem. So if you stuck around for all this, guys, please, I want to hear your comments, your thoughts, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It really helps us out. And I will see you guys on the next Talking Mods.